Passionate public service announcement. Passionate. Let me tell you something.
So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for passion no last necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am Passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA podcast.
Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, Passion No Last Necessary, your Get You Right guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever was on my mind or what I have observed. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered, to get you to a better version of yourself, for yourself, and for others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I will never infringe upon your right to feel how you feel. Same way I will not sugarcoat whatever it is I have to say. Before we get into the episode, y'all, I just want to once again thank Coach Bellamy for coming through. If you're all caught up, you've seen parts 1 and 2 of the Responding from Trauma episode. It was amazing. There really aren't any other words. I hope that you got everything from it that you needed. And feel free to watch the episodes again and again, because every time there's a new takeaway, every time there's a gem that you may have just jumped over because you were so caught up in the previous gem, or because you started talking to your friend while it was still playing and then you jumped back in. So I hope that you got everything that you desired out of it. I hope that you were grateful for the guests. I know that you've been waiting, and I did deliver, and I will continue to deliver. This week is a solo episode, so it's just me. It's just me. But I got something that I want to talk to you about. It's carryover from last season, but I did say that we were going to talk about this again, and you know that I am a woman of my word. So before I jump into the episode, I want to do some affirmations. Definitely raise the vibration. Definitely get us to that space where we can receive any level of information, and wherever it transports us to, it doesn't transport us to the lowest space possible. So I'm going to jump out. I'm going to jump back in with the affirmations, and then we'll jump straight into the episode. I represent myself well. I offer my best because that's all I have to offer. I take responsibility for my contributions. I am tending my garden. I am fertile ground for good seed. I produce fruitful seed to be scattered and grow. I honor the fact that there is a season for everyone and everything. I honor the change of season. I honor every end being a beginning. I celebrate the new chapter. I celebrate the new season. I celebrate the lesson. I am open to continued learning. I am ready to live fully. I recognize that release is relief. I am grateful for what I've had, what I have, and what's to come. I am worthy of wellness and wealth. Ashe, ashe, ashe. You know something, passionates? There are days when I'm not sure what to talk about. And there are days when the subject falls straight into my lap without having to think very hard. And I give thanks for those days. Today is one of them. So I'm going to get right into it, because I feel like there's a lot that I want to get off my chest. And it's very possible that this episode could go over 20 minutes. But do trust that it will be well worth your time. The point is, you remember the season 1 finale episode? You remember that we talked about overpromising and under-delivering? You remember that I said there was much more that I could talk about? Let's talk. And this isn't going to be a bashing session, just like the intent of that episode wasn't to be a bashing session. I want you to consider different ways to handle people with whom you've done business and had a poor experience. I want you to approach this like I want you to approach everything, really. Question first if this relatable experience has been anyone's experience with you. I don't want you to make excuses to justify why, the same way you're not giving out passes when someone drops the ball with you. If you're not going to hold yourself to the fire, then stop trying to rake everybody else over the coals. Either everyone deserves some grace or no one does. And the same applies for airing people out publicly. In the moment, it might feel amazing to put them on full blast at maximum volume. But would it feel equally as good if you were the one hanging on the clothesline? Like, even if you felt completely justified in whatever it was you did, do you think you would still feel good if you were tried in the court of public opinion and for as justified as you felt, the court ruled against and condemned you? Would you want to be hanged in the town square? If the answer is no, you have to be mindful of how you proceed. Now, what's done is already behind us, so we can't take anything back or do it over. We talked about that in the butterfly effect episode, right? But we can govern ourselves accordingly going forward. All of that to say, I said in the finale that if things have gone left in a business relationship, that I may very well tell someone else about the experience to prevent them from having to go through the same negative experience that I went through. And that's most people. But you have some that go a step or more further than that, and with good reason. There's a space for it, right? There are whole platforms built to discuss your company experience. You can laud them and brag about how wonderful the experience was, or you can billboard who failed, how. You can let anyone who sees it know, don't do business with this company. But there is peaceful satisfaction, and while it's not all the time, sometimes there's something about not speaking on everything. I remember an actor friend of mine reaching out to me because they were going to be a part of a production, and the director was someone I'd previously worked with. Now, when I worked with this person, they were scrambling to figure things out. They were trying to put things together. They had vision, but they had no money. They had no business acumen. They were a good talker with a little bit of equipment and a whole lot of drive. So they were trying to make things happen the best way they could. Instead of me bad-mouthing this individual, and even as I say this, I'm still giving the most positive perspective of the overall experience. But instead of me bad-mouthing this individual for what they didn't have, what they didn't do, I allowed my actor friend to formulate their opinion. And it was awful. They told me how disorganized this person was, how unprofessional they found this person's setup, how many times the written information said A and it was really B at the last minute. My actor friend was 2 through after it was all said and done. Now, I had experienced many of the things my actor friend had experienced. In fact, I'd experienced all of them. But this individual had stated prior to this new production that they had all of the things that they didn't have the last go around. So it was only fair to give them the benefit of the doubt that they'd be able to pull off a smoother production because they didn't have the same obstacles. And yet, they didn't have the same obstacles, but a new actor, unbiased, drawing their conclusions solely from their own experience, had the same complaints. Y'all remember Maddie's quote? Whatever doesn't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse. It means at some point, everything comes out. Everything is revealed. Everything is exposed. It means that time is the greatest tattletale of them all, because more than anything someone can tell you about someone else, time will tell you everything about a person and with no bias. I had opinions about the individual based on my experience, based on conversation I had with them. I didn't want to create a smear campaign because the truth is, some people just don't do well together. Your mother can give you amazing advice that you just can't receive from her, and your aunt can tell you the exact same thing, verbatim, And it'd be the best advice you ever heard in your life. Sometimes it's just the personalities. Sometimes it's just the circumstances surrounding that one incident. That isolated experience may just be an isolated experience. But if it's not, time will indeed tell. And let me tell you about the piece in that. When someone comes to you accusing you of slandering them or bad talking them or speaking libelously about them, there is a peace and maybe even a slightly egotistical satisfaction in being able to say, no, beloved, that's all you. I didn't tell them anything. I actually never said a bad word about you. They drew these conclusions on their own. In fact, they asked me about you, and I intentionally didn't tell them about any conflict we had because I wanted them to enter the experience unbiased. So any bad feelings they walked away with, congratulations, you played yourself, by yourself. And maybe now you'll take a look at yourself, at how you do things, and at what you need to change, because everyone can't be wrong and everyone can't be lying when there's only one common denominator. I had that experience as well. I was an assistant director in a program and we hired someone that I knew. Now, I didn't know the new hire closely. I was connected to them on a social platform because we have a mutual interest and a gang of people in common. Said individual started on Wednesday. Said individual walked off the job midday on Friday. The director was advised of the resignation letter that was sent to headquarters about how disgusting the director was to me, about how awful the director was in general, about the disorganization, the disrespect, what they signed on for, and what they arrived to. The letter was eloquently written and highly expressive, as one would expect of a degreed writer and lifelong educator. The director spread rumors and lies that I put this individual up to this and told them what to say. Now, y'all, I would hazard to say that I am very influential and can lead people in many directions. But even I don't think I'm that persuasive that I could convince someone to walk off the job in the middle of the day with no other job lined up and say it was in solidarity with me and expose what was going on at the location. But I didn't choose to air the director out. I let time tell the story. Because if I'm the problem, how come every employee that leaves, including employees who started before me, says they're leaving because of you? How come they all have a problem with your leadership? How come their exit interviews all seem to say the same thing when these people have left at different times and have no close personal relationships with each other? Everybody can't be lying, especially if you're the only common denominator. Time reveals everything. So while you listen to my stories of people who've been 1,000% wrong and then accuse me of trying to slander them because someone else had the same experience and told them they could kiss their grits, I want you to take a moment at some point and think about recurring themes in your life. How many people that you've worked with in the past would still work with you today? How many people that you worked with would you have to sell on the idea of working with you? And if you don't know what I mean by that, I'm talking about having to say things like, I have a budget this time, I have a location this time, I have an assistant. How many selling points would you have to come up with to onboard someone that's already had an experience with you versus saying, hey, I have a new project, and people saying, yes, I'm in. What do you need me to do? Before you even tell them what the project is. I want us to get out of the habit of thinking about how we've been mishandled and start assessing what damage we've done, if any, and how we can go about correcting that. It's not to sell yourself to anyone you've disappointed or angered. The goal is to ensure that when time tells this story, time tells a story of change. Time shows growth. Time shows new discipline and new character. Time says, yeah, they did a real raggedy job before, but it's worth the risk this time. And maybe they won't want to work with you still. Maybe they'll say once was enough. Maybe they've decided that all the growing and changing and evolving in the world could never be enough for them to allow you into their sphere again. And they have a right to that, and you'll have to honor that as well. But that's a whole other episode. It's coming. This episode was prompted by a conversation I was having with Ghost after, let's call it an occurrence, with someone with whom I'd done business. While the whole situation infuriated me, I decided that I wasn't going to put the person or the situation on blast. And when Ghost asked me why, I told him basically all that I'm telling you all right now. It wasn't necessary. Time will tell the story, so I don't need to. I could put them on blast and they could use that to market themselves as a victim. Now, I work hard at offering compassion and empathy even when I feel someone doesn't deserve it. I'm not about to let someone throw spin on a story and make me the big bad wolf. No, sir, no, ma'am. And for the person who is questioning how you then get your retribution, let me remind you, beloved, the objective is to tend your garden. Sarah Jakes said in one of her books, until you accept that you have no power over when someone will reap what they've sown, you'll always be staring at the ground, waiting for their harvest and missing your own. So I'm going to keep on living. I don't need for anyone to suffer a public embarrassment for me to feel better about my experience with them. What I do need to do is move on and leave them right where they are. If it is their intention to continue in unsightly, unprofessional ways, so be it. Time will still tell, irrespective of whether I'm present to hear the story. Now, will I always go this route? Nope. But when the relationship had both ups and downs, I can celebrate the ups, never forget, but no longer be bound by the downs and move forward. Because if there's someone who is displeased with their experience with me, I wouldn't want them to blast me, especially if they didn't at least try to talk to me about it first. But since I don't necessarily get the final say in what people ultimately do, it is my responsibility that I think through my actions so no one decides they're going to break fly on me, and more importantly, so no one ever feels they need to. I don't really know how long this took because I can't see the timer, okay? I think it took less than 20 minutes, and that's fine. My hope is that you were served well, okay? Because I don't believe in stretching out messages for the runtime. I always look forward to your comments. Listener letters can always be submitted to mybrilliantfriendpassion@gmail.com for more personal commentary or just to maintain your anonymity. Either is fine. I will address it here. If you are watching, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share, like, comment, subscribe, rate. If you have multiple YouTube accounts, subscribe with all of them. This way, no matter which account you're logged into, you'll get your notifications. And speaking of notifications, do turn notifications on so you can be alerted as soon as the episode is available. If you are listening, subscribe on your preferred platform. Help me help others. Donations can be made on the Podbean page, through my Linktree, via PayPal, and via Cash App. Let me know if you need a receipt for tax purposes. If you don't own a business, you don't need a receipt. If you don't own a business and you live in America, you are missing out on all the real perks. But this is not a financial literacy episode. And with that, I think I'm good on housekeeping. Y'all go forth, be great, be filled with bliss, be armed and empowered with knowledge. Stop being in such a hurry to blow up somebody's spot for what they did. Time is a better tattletale than you could ever be. Even if time doesn't tell you, time will tell anyone that needs to know. Last, you don't want to expedite time telling any story, especially if you can't guarantee that you won't be the main character in said story. In all things, be passionate. See you later.